ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to this edition of Through the Arsenal Gates. I'm giving you the opportunity to learn about people who have made history, are making history, and will make history. Our special guest today is Hassan Abdallah. He's the chair of the Charter Commission. I've been very fortunate in being able to sit on that commission with him as our leader. Tell us where you were born.
I am a proud lifelong resident of Dearborn, Michigan. I was born at Oakwood Hospital here in Dearborn.
What room number?
I don't remember exactly.
Very
Glenn.
disappointed.
Yeah, that was in May of 1990. So grew up in the south and east end of Dearborn. Proud Oakman Elementary student. That's where I went to elementary school. And yeah, grew up there all of my young and adult life.
How about your grandparents or parents? Were either of them immigrants?
Yes. So my father originally came here. Both my parents are of Lebanese descent. And my father originally came here when he was 15 in 1951 on his own. And at that time, I think that the plan was to identify opportunity. Obviously, it was earlier than the influx of Arab Americans who had come to America, in the early to mid 70s. At least that was the first large influx of Arab Americans who did. My grandfather came a lot later. He was still in Lebanon, my dad's dad. My mom's family still and always has been remained in Lebanon. And her story and their marriage story with my dad is an interesting one because he was much older than her. So she came a little bit later on in the late 70s.
Now, I'm curious, how did your dad come here at the age of 15 on his own?
He had some family friends, older family friends, who had initially come here to America. It wasn't necessarily to Dearborn, but to America, and saw opportunity that they had either heard or known to be available to them. And when he did come here, his first job was at a Big Boys in East Dearborn. My dad and his father in Lebanon were cobblers. And so in Bint Jbeil, which I know you visited, Glenn, and that was the history of the family, really, as they were cobblers in the south of Lebanon. And so when he came here, that was his first job, and I don't think he stayed very long, but he learned that there was a lot of potential opportunity here. But at that time, there were very, very few Arab or Muslim Americans.
What percentage of Dearborn Arabs are from Bint Jbeil?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you, exactly how many are from Bint Jbeil. It's a funny thing to discuss because whenever you meet someone who is particularly from South Lebanon, most of the time you find out to be that they're from there, someone they're married to is from there. It's a village that just has a lot of history in Lebanon.
I have a lot of fun with that in that when I meet somebody new, I say, I bet your family's from Bint Jbeil. How did you know?
Yeah, it's very common. It's a very good guess.
Yeah. So what did your dad do for a living here?
So when my dad came here, he worked at the Chrysler plant for many years out in Pontiac, and then also into the south end of Dearborn, but that was when it was Ford. And so he worked in the auto industry, just on the plant side, and was a blue-collar guy, worked long shifts, and did that really throughout the duration of his professional life.
What was it like growing up in the South End?
I only spent a few years there. My family had been there from the time they came here, almost in the Liberty Village apartments, right there across from Lapeer Park. And actually, when my parents lived there, my older sisters were our neighbors. So it was almost like a block of apartments that we all lived next door to each other. My memories are it was just a very tight-knit community. So it never felt like you lived in one apartment. It felt like you lived in one big home. and everybody's next door apartment was really just an extension of your home. So at any given day, we could have dinner 2 units down, breakfast 2 units down.
I love it.
Yeah. And the way that those apartments were built, where the backyards were all kind of open to one another, although very small. And so really it was always, us and the kids were back there amongst my cousins, my nephews, and it was amazing. It was excellent.
How many kids were in your family?
Yeah, so we're 11. I have 6 sisters and 4 brothers. I am number 10. I have a younger sister. The age gap is large. Currently, my younger sister is 27, and my oldest sibling is 66.
Wait a minute, say that again.
Yeah, my youngest sibling, my younger sister Nadira, is 27, and my oldest sibling Samira is 66.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, my dad was married twice, so that makes things a lot easier to explain. Yeah.
Got it.
So,
got it. Yeah.
yeah.
Growing up, who was the most influential person in your household?
My mother, for sure. My mom, having come here, really has lived an entire life of just kind of taking on the next wave of challenges. That's kind of always been the theme. She came here, she was 19. My dad was about 20 years older than her. He had 6 kids. His eldest daughter, my sister Samira, and my mom were the same age. And they were also having kids at the same time, which was, I'm sure, an interesting dynamic. But she certainly was the most influential person for me, because she was just the person that consistently delivered the messages of guidance, teaching. Both my parents were very tough, conservative, school of thought, but they also had a tenderness about their love that they delivered in a unique way, but through high expectations for their kids, and only because they knew that this was a place where we had an opportunity that many others didn't, particularly their own family members back home.
Okay. Hassan, when you were 12, what did you think you wanted to do for a living?
I might go back a little bit earlier than that. I distinctly remember in about 3rd grade there was a kind of a draw your career type of project in class, and it raised concern with the teacher because she thought I was drawing something a little gorish, but what I wanted to be was a butcher. I thought that was the coolest job in the world.
Now I want to get this straight. You were going to be a butcher, and you ended up studying law.
Yeah. So
there's a certain consistency there.
Sure,
right?
sure. I just thought that was. I remember distinctly going to the butcher market and stores with my dad and my mom, and I thought that was the coolest job in the world. I love how respected the local butcher was, how personable he was, how, whenever we went there, he would always welcome me behind the counter. When I was 12, I probably had a distorted thought that I would become a professional athlete because I was just very involved in sports and loved sports at that time. But the journey into law school and post-law school was a much different one. So, yeah.
Let me back up for a minute. Tell us, all right, in your family unit,
Mm-hmm.
all right, how many were living in your apartment?
Well, like I said, in the South End, everybody really lived next to one another.
But in your own...
In our own apartment,
Yeah.
I know at one point that, some of my older sisters did live in there as well. So there was probably any given time anywhere between 6 to 10 of us. And then when the family moved to East Dearborn, particularly my parents' house now in Kendall, which is near the Golden Bakery in Warren and Chase, it was 5 of us for a long time. The home was built initially as a 2-family home, but we lived in the whole unit. And but it was always home to everyone. So the grandchildren, the nieces, nephews were there all the time.
So when you were living in the apartment, how many bedrooms did it have?
Oh man, I think it was a 2-bedroom apartment. So it was.
So did
tight,
you ever
tight
have
quarters.
anybody walking on your face?
I dealt with that for a long time. Yeah, it was tight quarters for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about your wife and your children.
My amazing wife, Samar. My wife, Samar, is, I met her here in Dearborn through mutual friends, and we have two daughters, Aya, who is 4 and turning 5 this November, and Layla, who turns 3 in September. They couldn't be any more opposite of one another. They both attend Maya School, which is an Islamic private school here in Dearborn on Ford Road. My wife is a PA at St. Joe's in Ann Arbor. She's a hospitalist there and been there for just about 8 years now. And yeah.
And what was your progression through the educational ladder?
Yeah, so I went to Oakman Elementary School, then I was a Lori Polar Bear, went to Fortson High School. After Fortson, I got my bachelor's in economics and finance at Wayne State. I took a gap year, and so I continued to work. I worked full-time during undergrad and law school, and then I went to law school and graduated from Cooley Law School in Lansing.
And who was your favorite teacher when you were growing up? Or through
Yeah,
undergraduate years as well?
Oh, yeah, those would be distinctly different. I think throughout my younger academic years, the teacher who I had the most influential relationship with, one who's grown with me even professionally, her name is Maria Lacaria, Miss Lacaria. I'm not sure where she's teaching now, but she was someone who even in high school, college, would consistently check in. You know, how are you doing? How is life going? What are you thinking about studying? What are some challenges you're facing? And then into my professional life, and young professional life, she was someone who invited me back to read to her class, talk to her class on career day, talk to students about, I was very involved in from 2016 and beyond in some community education about substance abuse and mental health, and that was a topic that we both felt passionate about. So she's been someone I've really developed a lifelong friendship and bond with.
Now tell us about your career in athletics.
I played any sport I could growing up. In high school, I played football, basketball, and track. After that, that was really about it. Playing sports, especially at Fortson with the schools, is much tradition and kind of pride in a few sports there, was an amazing experience. My senior year and my junior to senior year was an interesting time. A very long-time coach, Jeff Stergalis, had left Fortson High School to our crosstown rival, Dearborn High. And so my senior year was the first year under Coach Fouad Zaban, who's now the long tenured coach at Fortson, which was an interesting transition, but it was an amazing one, and one that so many memories with so many guys that I still talk to now, and so I miss those years for sure.
Okay. Were you good in football?
I would say so. Yeah, I think so.
What did you play? What position?
I played wide receiver and safety. I played 4 years of varsity, so that was a great experience. That it was really my freshman year, towards the tail end, got moved up to JV, and then the last few games got moved up to varsity, which was an experience within itself, kind of being a 14-year-old with a bunch of older guys, and but yeah, it was a great experience. A lot of good memories, a lot of good wins.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Now, let's move on to the Charter Commission.
Yeah.
First of all, tell our audience what the Charter is all about.
Yeah, so the city charter essentially serves as the constitution for our city. It outlines the framework and map of how the city operates across various major functions. So everything from city boards and commissions to our tax system, to pensions boards related to our retirees and police and fire units, and then the construct and powers that are organized and given to the administration and the mayor's office and the city council.
This was the first time you ran for office?
It was.
And you were the second highest vote getter.
I was, yeah.
Tell us about your campaign.
Running for office was a distinctly interesting experience. I had been involved as a volunteer for other campaigns prior to that, really on a grassroots level, knocking doors, working election day, some campaign strategy for some state rep races. Running individually was a very humbling experience in the sense that Dearborn feels like a very small town, and then as you're knocking doors between, Dick's near Salina School all the way to the Soda area and O.L. Smith areas, you really kind of feel like you're traveling across the country, let alone a city, because there's just such a wide range of individuals, backgrounds, perspectives, and so hearing from residents on that level was an experience for me that opened my eyes to learn, there's a real chance here to do something that could really have a good impact on the day-to-day lives of residents. I probably won't ever do it again, but it's been a very fulfilling experience the last 2.5 years.
Good.
Yeah.
How would you describe your role on the Charter Commission?
Yeah, so coming in, I was elected just like the rest of the other 8 commissioners, and we had collectively decided that we wanted to appoint a chairman and vice chairman, chairperson, and I was very, very lucky to be selected by my peers, and you as well, Glenn, as the chairman. As chairman, really, I see my job as kind of quarterbacking the entire process. I was really always, and still am, most concerned and about ensuring that the process of our discussions and facilitating decisions and making decisions was one that was thorough, that was doing our due diligence. And so that's what I kind of saw my role as, leading that effort. I didn't see myself as the leader of the group in the sense that I held a higher position than anyone. I think my contributions were just as equal as anyone else's. But sitting in the middle and 4 to my right and 4 to my left, it was one that made me a better listener. And so it really did teach me, and I felt like that was my job first, to listen, to ensure that other people were listening, letting people fully vet their opinions, feelings, whatever it may be, including the public, right? And so that would be the last thing I would say was a part of my role, was ensuring that the public was as well informed, educated, empowered about the process as possible.
Contentious issues, what were they?
Political districts and wards was certainly one of them. There came the topic of whether or not we would deal with term limits or staggered terms for the city council, and those were all kind of discussions that stemmed from one another. I think those were some of the bigger ones. I think one of the issues, maybe not so contentious during the process, but that comes as a result of the Attorney General's review, obviously, is the removal of the minimum staffing provisions, which is required by law, which I think some individuals would find challenging, because if, other than the charter failing on the ballot initiative, that provision would remain. It would stay essentially grandfathered in, but because of state law changes in 2011, we had to remove that. And so, but yeah, I would say that was probably the crux of some of the contentious issues throughout the process.
Why do you think it's important for the Dearborn voters to approve the charter?
I am very proud of the work that the Charter Commission has done, and I firmly believe that the changes and revisions, really, the revisions that have been made are, one, necessary to ensure compliance with state law. 2, they bring a more accountable, transparent form of government to the Dearborn voters. And 3, it really does create a system for Dearborn voters that is more accessible to them. And so I think in the updates that we've made to appointments to city boards and commissions, requiring diversity requirements, inclusiveness requirements, and training requirements for them, is one that allows us to have a more presentable government that serves its people.
Okay. And remind our audience when the election is to
Yes.
approve.
So the election for the charter initiative will be on the ballot in the August 6th election. So that'll be on the back side of your ballot. So make sure to flip your ballot and vote on the Dearborn Charter
Very
Initiative.
good. We originally met at a forum that was on drug abuse.
Mhm.
Tell us about your involvement in that.
Many years ago, I was a co-founder in a nonprofit called the Safe Substance Abuse Coalition, and my involvement, passion, and motivation there really stemmed from my brother's addiction and journey and his challenge with addiction throughout his young adult life. And so my work there was really, was actually quoted in the Press and Guide many years ago to say, I didn't want to see another mom in the community go through what my mom did, and seeing her struggle as a parent and then also just as an individual, kind of putting that blame on herself. And so the hope was to create an organization that would educate people about the reality of drug addiction, the reality of mental health challenges within our community, and open eyes to some of the stigmas, challenges, myths that we face culturally as well as we do politically. I'm still very involved in various organizations now on that front. We lost my brother in 2019, and so I see it really as a testament to his battle to continue to hopefully help anyone in that capacity.
How did your brother get involved in drugs?
I think it was a mixture of bad timing, bad place, bad friends. I think people underestimate how quickly you can fall into a pattern of addiction and maybe overestimate how complicated that process can be or access to these things can be. Because really it can stem from a legitimate prescription or injury, and then a few wrong decisions and you find yourself in a very deep hole that is, it's an illness, and so it's an illness that is very, very difficult for people to get out of. Yeah.
Tough stuff.
Yeah. But you remain hopeful that you continue to do the work, and with God's grace that you have an impact that hopefully helps some people. Yeah.
What advice would you give to an 18-year-old who is trying to decide on a career?
I think it's easy to default on the answer of finding something you love and do what you love, but I think that evolves in time. So to an 18-year-old, I would say challenge your depth of what you think you can do. That would be what I would advise them to do first, particularly in their college years. Explore areas that you otherwise don't think you would explore or find interesting. Read books in genres that you normally wouldn't do that. So diversify your educational experience and really push yourself beyond what you believe you think you can do from a traditional career mindset. I think a lot of people, particularly from the urban American community, fall into a few buckets. It's like a doctor, lawyer, engineer, pharmacist, and there's a world of careers out there. And so I would say, to diversify your educational opportunity, meet people in prospective professional areas that you think you would be interested in, and see if that lifestyle, that mode of work is something you're interested in.
Did you work when you were growing up?
I did, yeah. I started working when I was probably within the family, about 12, 13 years old. Yeah.
And what did you do?
Family businesses, so some of it were the gas stations, just helping out my brother's business. And then my first young job at 15 was at a restaurant as a busboy. And so throughout high school, I bussed, I waited tables, I did valet. My first professional job as a young professional was as a compliance intern at a credit union in Farmington Hills. And that is actually how I transitioned into the world of healthcare, which I've been in for over a decade now. I met a compliance and legal professional through the credit union who went on to a health system, and he became a mentor to me, and that was it.
So when you began the internship, did you think that you were going to be one day like a manager of a credit union?
I did, because of my undergraduate studies in economics and finance, very much drew an interest to the financial services space. And so I thought, yeah, maybe I would kind of climb that corporate ladder within that industry. But then once I got a taste of the healthcare industry, its depth, its versatility in job availability, I found that to be one that I'd be more interested in.
So tell us about your progression. What employers have you had along the way?
Yeah, so
And you don't have to discuss the ones that you were illegally working at because you were too young.
So yeah, starting out, I worked for Henry Ford Health System in their compliance and legal team. And throughout that, progressed onto the insurance side. So they had a subsidiary called HAP, which is actually the health insurance company for City of Dearborn employees. I grew within that compliance team and then served as their chief compliance officer in their C-suite and executive team. I then went on to Oscar Health, which was a startup healthcare company in New York. That was a tremendously different experience because of the amount of government work that was done there, and now serve as the VP and head of healthcare compliance of MICRA, which is a global healthcare and regulatory advisory firm based out of DC.
All right, very good, very good. What is your philosophy of life?
My take on life at this point is to lead a fulfilling life of the things and people I love. So for me, that starts with my family, my wife, my mother, my 2 children. Life is very short, and so I think when people often hear that, they think, so do as much as you can. And for me, it's I'm very focused and wanting to leave an impression and legacy with my children that they are proud of and that they can use to lead on to live as fulfilling lives through God and faith and their own families.
And what are your top values?
Top values that I either seek in people or hope to show to people is one of trust, of loyalty, and respect. I think those are the ones I would say the most, yeah.
And when you move on to the next life, what do you want people to say about you?
That he was a loving, caring, and nurturing father, that he served his family well, because I do believe that that is my role through God, to serve and take care of my family in any capacity that I can, and that, hopefully people are smiling as they think about me in the afterlife, and the impact that I left on them.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have enjoyed this interview with Hassan Abdallah, who is the chair of the Charter Commission. If you enjoyed the show, tell all of your friends. If you didn't, just keep it to yourself. Thank you.